Okay. Good afternoon. We're bringing today's Education and Economic Development Subcommittee hearing to order. Today, we'll be going over the budget for the Historic St. Mary City Commission, followed by the Maryland Technology Development Corporation. So we'll begin with Jacob Polakov. Is that correct? Yeah. As our budget analyst. Great to see you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Again, Jacob Polakov from DLS for the Historic St. Mary City Commission budget analysis. Historic St. Mary City, just for a quick refresher, focuses on preserving and protecting the archaeological and historical record of Maryland's first capital and to appropriately develop historic and scenic sites for the education, enjoyment, and general benefit of the public. The goal of the commission is that the archaeological sites and collections, along with scenic views and rural character of the historic city, be safeguarded by preservation and research practices consistent with its status as a National Historic Landmark District. On page 1, we have the operating budget summary, which shows a decrease in the fiscal 2025 budget for HSMCC. The decrease is in the amount of $523,626, or about 7%, to a total budget of $6.9 million. Moving to page 2, we have information on 2 proposed efficiency appropriations at HSMCC for the fiscal 2024 appropriation. These add a total of $358,508 in general funds for 2 separate purposes. The first is $242,882 in additional funding for wireless network installment expenses. And the second is $115,626 for cost of living adjustment related expenses. Exhibit 1, which appears on page 3, has an overview of the agency's spending and shows that the largest share of HSMCC's fiscal 25 allowance is $1.7 million, or 25% for administrative functions. Maintenance operations account for a further 23% of the budget, with research archaeology composing another 22%. The remainder is allocated to public programming, business enterprise expenses, and marketing. On page 4, we have Exhibit 2, which shows the proposed budget changes broken out by personnel and other categories in HSMCC. Again, showing a budget decrease of a little more than $523,000. This decrease is largely driven by the removal of more than $1 million in one-time expenses, which were included in the fiscal 2024 appropriation. A few items that I'd like to highlight include under personnel expenses. There's additional funding for salary increases and associated fringe benefits, including fiscal 24 cost of living adjustment and increments. And then below, under other changes, a couple of changes that are noteworthy include the insurance costs for the new Maryland Heritage Interpretive Center and the new Maryland Dove. And then the previously mentioned removal of several different instances of one-time funding, including funding for additional maintenance equipment, new vehicles, and non-capital expenses for the new Maryland Heritage Interpretive Center. On page 5, we have a quick breakdown of personnel data for HSMCC. The number of regular positions does not change in fiscal 25, while there is a subtraction of 0.2 contractual FTEs in fiscal 2025. HSMCC has no budgeted turnover, meaning they have no necessary vacancies, which is good because as of December 31st of 2023, there were no positions vacant at HSMCC. On page 6, we have the first key observation, which looks at visitation, which dropped slightly, but has continued to exceed pre-pandemic levels. Attendance levels did fall slightly in fiscal 23, with 53,388 members of the public visiting Historic St. Mary City. That's a decrease of 388 from fiscal 22. Visitor totals continue to surpass totals from years immediately prior to the pandemic, and a breakdown of the total number of different types of visitors is shown in Exhibit 3. This includes school children, general attendance, including members, recreational site use, along with free admission events and paid and partner events. HSMCC is continuing to explore new ways to increase the number of visitors as they continue archaeological activities and the creation of new exhibits. One key group of visitors HSMCC is particularly keen to bring to the site in greater numbers is school children. They're currently working to develop new school tour programs while improving existing programming to ensure that all school programs meet teacher curriculums and state standards. They're also coordinating with entities including St. Mary's College of Maryland, Historic Jamestown, and others to increase awareness of Historic St. Mary's City in the hopes that these efforts, along with increased marketing and advertising, will grow visitor numbers even beyond those numbers seen in fiscal 22 and 23. The second key observation begins on page 7, which discusses the implementation of operational changes underway in response to the independent audit of HSMCC. That audit was requested in the 2022 Joint Chairman's Report, which restricted funds pending the submission of a report to the budget committees and the St. Mary's County delegation on the results of a performance audit conducted externally. The report was submitted in March 2023, which was a few months after the due date, and was requested due to concern from the committees regarding financial management practices at HSMCC. The audit found that HSMCC's business operations were, at the time, run informally, with subpar supervision of purchasing cards, cash management, and a lack of updated operating and property lease agreements, among several other issues. The report included 9 recommendations made to HSMCC, which would resolve issues identified during the audit, and appendices 2 and 3 have a list of audit findings and recommendations, respectively. HSMCC has committed to implementing the audit recommendations and has already completed several of the recommendations, including the first, which stated that a chief operating officer should be hired. That has been completed. And they've also created key performance indicators along with written policies and procedures for the tracking and governance of historic St. Mary's City operations as recommended in the audit. They're in the process of updating operating agreements with key partners, including St. Mary's College of Maryland and the Historic St. Mary's City Foundation. HSMCC has stated that the process is taking longer than anticipated due to the complexity of updating operating agreements with multiple partners. They have not yet implemented a recommendation regarding the Brome Howard Inn. HSMCC has recognized that the inn was not operating at its full potential, often remaining empty or underutilized, and as such, it has been closed while HSMCC evaluates efficient uses for it in the future. In the past several months, HSMCC has issued an RFI, a request for information, and a subsequent request for proposals, as it works to identify the best way to utilize the inn. The RFI was published first and did not receive any submissions. The RFP was published second, and at least one submission was received, which is currently being evaluated by staff. When the inn is brought back online, HSMCC should implement recommendation number 6 from the audit as part of the process of bringing it back online. HSMCC should also comment on the status of implementing recommendations from the audit, which have not been fully implemented. And the Department of Legislative Services recommends the adoption of committee narrative, requesting a report on the progress toward full implementation of all 9 recommendations from the audit. On page 9, we'll find the operating budget recommended actions, which include action regarding the narrative I've just mentioned, the audit recommendations implementation report, requested to be submitted by September 1st of 2024. With that, I will be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pellico, for your analysis. I greatly appreciate it. Are there any questions from the subcommittee? Seeing none, I'd like to welcome, there you are, Dr. Seidel. You're now the new executive director, so congratulations and welcome to the subcommittee. And feel free to introduce your panel as well.
Thank you very much, members of the committee. Can you hear me? I
Yes.
can get this a little closer. It's a pleasure to be here. I've got sitting next to me Admiral Healy, who is chair of the commission, and Travis Parno, Dr. Travis Parno to my right, who is director of research and was ably filling in the job as acting director over the last 9 months and really did a remarkable job. We've got Chief Operating Officer Peter Caraccio, who's behind us, CFO Doug Hunter, and then Amy Davis, who's a financial officer, and facilities director Joe Kanga. So although I am new, we got plenty of staff to help you with questions if need be. You have my written testimony, so I'm just going to summarize. First, we concur with the budget analyst's recommendations, both on the budget allocation and also on the recommendation regarding the 2023 audit. I've only been here, as you've heard, for a month, but I found the audit extremely useful for myself in helping to understand the agency. And I've talked to my colleagues. They also found it very helpful. And well before I arrived, they were working very hard to implement the recommendations. I do have my own assessment of St. Mary's City, even though I've been here briefly. I've observed it from afar for many years. It has absolutely extraordinary resources. It's got extraordinary people who are highly capable and passionate about what they do. And it's got some remarkable programs that are really world class. And it's a shame that it isn't more widely known. That said, I will say that it's my impression that not enough attention has been placed on the administrative framework and underpinning necessary for sustainability and for continued growth. That's really not at all unusual in organizations that undergo rapid expansion and growth, but it is time to address those. What it means for us is that the agency has no fat in it, and I think that this budget recommendation, therefore, is critical. One of my core beliefs coming into this job is that heritage tourism is a really powerful catalyst for regional economic development. And at St. Mary's City, we are committed to seeing ourselves do its part. And really, I think that the scope and the track record of the museum should make it a catalyst. But we've also got a very important other catalyst that's coming up on the horizon, and an opportunity that's extraordinarily rare. That's the coming 400th anniversary of Maryland's founding in 2034. It happened at St. Mary's City. We need to capitalize on that event because it can build visitation that will benefit not just us, but all of the sites in Southern Maryland. And we're hopeful that it will generate excitement and economic activity that will benefit not just the region of Southern Maryland, but the state as a whole. And I think you'll appreciate that from a planning perspective, 2034 is right around the corner. If we're going to realize the extraordinary potential of this event, of this opportunity, we need to be working hard on it right now. And what's more, we're going to need some significant infrastructure development, which takes time. It just doesn't happen overnight. So on behalf of our staff and the approximately 60,000 citizens who visit us every year, we thank you for your support, and we're very happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Again, welcome. Are there any questions from the subcommittee? Seeing none, thank you. I think we want to visit and see more. Some of us haven't had the opportunity. So thank you for all that you're doing to make sure more people know about Maryland's history. It's American history. Everyone should care. Thank you so much. That concludes the budget hearing for Historic St. Mary's City Commission. I don't know. I believe we have one TEDCO representative here. Are you waiting for your team?
Yes.
5-minute recess. Yeah, so it's fine. Yeah, so while you're kind of finding them, we can actually have a vote session on some bills we need to vote on anyway. So we can take it, we can do that while TEDCO wraps up what they're doing.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, not a problem. I don't have my computer with me. Oh yeah, that's perfectly fine. Any minutes.
Yep. So Madam Chair, you have 4 bills that we're planning to vote on: House Bill 4, House Bill 204, House Bill 221, and House Bill 291. House Bill 4 is Delegate Lewis's bill around emission standards, a prohibition on consideration of legacy preference. There are 2 amendments that were sent to you. Amendment number 1 was technical, and amendment number 2 adds a prohibition on using donor status as well in admissions. So you would need to move the amendment and the bill as amended.
Any discussion on the amendments? Is there a motion to adopt the amendments? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Is there a motion to move the amended bill? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it.
Great. The second bill is House Bill 204, Delegate Attar's bill on education, coaches, mental health training. This bill is in the exact same posture that passed the committee last year. The bill requires each public school in the state that offers a mainstream athletic program, each public institution of higher ed that offers an athletic program, to provide specific mental health training to each participating coach. There are no amendments.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The bill's passed. There's no amendments. It's the same posture as last year. Nothing changed. Okay.
Yes.
So a nay, a strong nay. Make sure it's noted. No, I just want to make sure it's distinguished. We want to capture you, my friend.
Third bill is House Bill 221, Delegate Wu's bill, education funding for general education programs, definition alterations. The bill alters the methodology for determining the enrollment count used for determining state aid. I believe the chair would like to move this bill unfavorable.
Is there a second? All those in favor in moving unfavorable, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. This bill is moved unfavorable.
The last bill is House Bill 291. There is one amendment. The amendment, so right now the bill authorizes county boards of education to electronically post hearing information pertaining to the selection of a school site on their website. This would, the amendment changes certain language in the bill to authorizing rather than requiring.
Is there any first I want to know, is there any discussion about the amendment? No? So there was a motion to move the amendment. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Is there a motion to move the bill as amended? Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. That concludes the voting session for EED. Is Tedco? Oh, Tedco's here. Perfect timing. We will now resume our budget hearing for the Maryland Technology Development Corporation, better known as Tedco. We'll begin with a budget analysis from Elizabeth Weibel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll move right into my analysis. On the first page here, you'll see the fiscal 25 allowance decreases slightly from the prior year to a total of $58.5 million. Most of this is in general funds, with about $4.6 million in federal funds. Turning to page 3, Exhibit 1, this pie chart here is a breakdown of the fiscal 2025 allowance. Stem cell research funding makes up more than a third of the budget, and the fiscal 25 allowance for stem cell research is $20.5 million, which is the same level of funding as the past 2 years. Social impact funds make up 23% of the budget. These funds provide investments for companies run by individuals with socially or economically disadvantaged backgrounds. The biggest one of those is the Builder Fund, or the Minority Pre-Seed Investment Fund, which receives $7.5 million. And the Equitech Growth Fund, which was established last year, receives $5 million, consistent with the legislative mandate. And then about 11% of the allowance is for new programs. On page 6, there's a table showing changes related to legislation. The largest area of change is added funding for 4 proposed new programs, which I'll get to in a moment. And then funding for the Equitech Growth Fund increases by $2 million. The largest decrease is due to a one-time appropriation in fiscal 24 to capitalize the Maryland Equity Investment Fund. Page 7, the key observation deals with those 4 proposed programs that I mentioned. These are in the budget bill with their funding contingent upon legislation to establish the programs. And together, those 4 new programs are worth $3.8 million in fiscal 25. I'm told that 2 of those weren't actually supposed to be contingent upon legislation. The Baltimore Tech Hub and the Uprise program, those can be funded through TEDCO's existing programs. And DBM anticipates that contingency language will be removed in a future supplemental budget. Legislation has been introduced to establish the other 2 programs, the Baltimore Innovation Initiative Pilot Program and the Pava LaPere program. Both of these would provide funding to companies founded by students or faculty at post-secondary institutions in the Baltimore area. They're both similar to the existing Maryland Innovation Initiative, but would make more colleges and universities eligible to participate. Exhibit 4 on page 8 has a table of the institutions that are eligible to participate in the Maryland Innovation Initiative, the pilot program that was active in fiscal 23 and 24, and the proposed Baltimore Innovation Initiative. And the eligible institutions are spelled out in the legislation for each of these programs. On page 10, you'll see that DLS recommendation is to concur with the governor's allowance. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Weibel, for your analysis. Are there any questions? All right, seeing none, we're going to move on to the Executive Director of TEDCO, Troy LaMail-Stovall.
Delegate Smith, thank you. Members of the subcommittee, appreciate always being here. Thank you for your flexibility. We were across the hall testifying on the Pava LaPere Innovation Act. So again, thank you for that. The governor was in there. It was a little bit of a show. Anyway, again, my name is Troy LaMail-Stovall. I serve as the CEO of TEDCO. Thank you all. First of all, thank you, Elizabeth, for your outstanding analysis. We appreciate you as always. So thank you for that in total concurrence with the analysis that DLS has given. I want to spend a minute, first of all, introducing, we have multiple boards that we have at TEDCO. We have a TEDCO board and a Maryland Innovation Initiative, Maryland Stem Cell Research Commission, and the Maryland Venture Fund Authority. We do have one of the board members from the Maryland Innovation Initiative, Ms. Mary Morris, who is with the University of Maryland at Baltimore. So we want to thank her for her service to MII and to TEDCO in general. We have a number of our executive leadership team and leadership team here as well, and I'll be introducing a panel that'll be providing some support. We also have one of our entrepreneurs, Ron Steptoe, from CEO Warrior Health. That's also, he's not being testified, but I just want to call him out. Look, thank you. We want to thank the governor for the budget that he's provided us. I'll speak more to that, but I want to also thank you all for the historical support to TEDCO. Through that, that's allowed us to do some pretty cool things, if I may, very quickly. One of the things we've been able to do is make sure that we are making the message known throughout the state through our marketing efforts. As a very specific example, we've gone down to Southern Maryland to highlight the great work that's happening down at Pax River and with the autonomous work that's there and highlighting that type of work. Through our work that we do through Maryland Innovation Initiative and Maryland Stem Cell Research Commission, you'll hear from both of those. But they are with the stem cell, they're truly delivering cures. You're going to hear from an actual patient, from cures that are coming out of the stem cell research. MII is literally one of the nation's leading authorities on tech transfer, and the work that's coming out of our 5 research institutions being Johns Hopkins, Morgan State, University of Maryland, Baltimore, University of Maryland, Baltimore County, University of Maryland, College Park. They are helping to drive tremendous value in terms of innovation and taking that innovation and bringing it to market. We're excited about the work that's happening there. Our federal programs, we're very aggressive now. We recognize, we appreciate the funds that the state provides to us, but we also know we have to scale, and there are other sources that we have to secure. And so we've been very aggressive in going after federal funds to supplement and to scale the work that you're doing here. And then with our investment team, one of the things we're very proud of, she mentioned the work that we do through our pre-seed, through our seed, and through our Maryland Venture Fund. If you look at the statistics from the rest of the country, 0.3% of all venture capital dollars last year, 0.3% went to an entity started by someone of color or a woman. I will tell you in fiscal 23 at TEDCO, almost 60% of the dollars that we deployed, that we invested, went to an entity started by someone of color, a woman, or from our rural areas. So we are far exceeding these national averages, and we continue to do that. And we don't do it as something we do it because those are the great opportunities that we're seeing here in the state of Maryland. We also are very focused on specific areas that we know needs assistance. We had a very successful Black Women Founders Initiative at Coppin State back in November, where we have 300 women, 300 participants. We had a panel of 8 entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs, and then a panel of 5 venture capitalists. And the venture capitalists had to talk to and address some of the concerns that these Black women were facing. So it was a great event. And I would be remiss to tell you that, one of our values is stewardship. And so our finance and operations team ensures that we are doing and spending the monies in a very viable way. So again, I want to thank you to the specific things that have been added to our bill. Again, I spoke about the PAVA fund that's being created or being suggested to be created. That will allow us to continue to invest in early stage companies, particularly our student entrepreneurs in the Baltimore MSA. And by the way, this MSA is connected to the Tech Hub. The Tech Hub effort, if you're not familiar, is being driven by our friends of the Greater Baltimore Committee. It is looking to really make Baltimore be the home of AI and digital health. And it's going to create thousands of jobs and billions of dollars of economic impact. And so, but it requires matching funds from the state and committed funds. So many of those funds are going to flow through TEDCO through these efforts that we just discussed. One of those being this PAVA fund for $500,000. The other one being funds that we're going to have for the Baltimore Innovation Initiative. Again, we see innovation happens outside of those research institutions. So we'll be focused on the 2- and 4-year institutions with the BII with $1.5 million. Yes, we have some pass-through monies that are going to go through Upsurge of $840,000. And then $1 million that's also going to come to us that's going to be in support of the Tech Hub effort. But the one line that we're most excited about, quite honestly, is the SBIR STTR match. That is a bill that was passed several years ago through the leadership of Delegate Chi. And there are 20 other states that have the ability to match those federal funds. the 1.8 million that's being provided, we would use 1.3 to do that matching, and the other $500,000 would go to our proposal lab, which is one of the best in the country. The individual come out of our proposal lab have a 3 times success rate over those who do not, particularly for people of color and women. So we're ready to scale that. And so as I close and I call up my panel, that's the whole point, is that as we continue to do the work of TechCo, which is to bring innovation to market, our goal is, and many of you heard me talk about this, we've got to scale differently. We have to add zeros to what we're doing, and we're looking for other resources outside of the state. We've got to stitch together the work that Mark Thomas is leading in the BMSA to look at how do we stitch together or bring together so we can create the scale. When we stitch and scale better, we can storytell better, which is what we need to do to gain access to more resources. And if we scale, stitch, and storytell better, ladies and gentlemen, we can create a higher level of stickiness of companies that are started and stay in the state of Maryland. And that's what this is supposed to be about. So again, I thank you all. Thank you, Delegate Smith, Chairperson Smith, for your support. What I want to do right now is call up the panel to provide additional testimony, if that's okay, and then obviously take any questions. So first of all, representing our stem cell research as a patient, Stephen McDonald from our Maryland Innovation Initiative, Dr. Venkata Ashkantala, apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name, from Johns Hopkins, and then a good friend, Sherrod Davis, who's the CEO of EcoMap. And we'll go this way. Dr. Venkata.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to testify. I'm Dr. Venkata Akshantala. I'm an assistant professor in the Division of Gastroenterology at Johns Hopkins. I've completed my medicine training at the University of Pittsburgh, followed by GI fellowship and 2 advanced fellowships in therapeutic endoscopy and medical pancreatology at Johns Hopkins. I direct the Endoscopy Innovation Center and the Advanced Endoscopy Fellowships within our division. I specialize in the management of pancreatic disorders and perform advanced therapeutic endoscopy procedures. My research focuses on improving patient care through better performing and safer endoscopy devices so that we can avoid the need for invasive surgical procedures. Over the past few years, I have been awarded 2 separate but related MII technology assessment grants in collaboration with Dr. Stephen Hoig from the University of Maryland School of Pharmacy, who's here with us today. The first one was to develop a liquid Band-Aid like gel that controls bleeding and promotes healing from GI ulcers, colon polyp removal sites, colon cancers, and other locations. The second was a single-step treatment for a severe form of pancreatitis that cuts down the number of endoscopy procedures from 6 to 1, thus facilitating early recovery. So each of these innovations are disruptive with significant impact on patient care, and the recipients of numerous awards and currently being prepared for human clinical trials. Funding and other resources from MII have helped expedite the development of these products. Moreover, it is essential to recognize that these funds accomplish more than just mitigating risks for technologies. They play a pivotal role in transforming the culture within the participating universities. They foster cross-institutional collaboration and encourage the emergence of future faculty entrepreneurs. On a personal note, it is gratifying to oversee the development of transformative technologies that address unmet needs in clinical practice that we see every day. Recently, MII company formation investment funding helped spin the work of mine and Dr. Hoig's team into Maryland-based venture, and the product to treat pancreatitis received an FDA orphan drug designation, which underscores the critical need to expedite the development and delivery to patients suffering from these debilitating conditions. To conclude, I would like to express my gratitude to the subcommittee and the state of Maryland for their continued support of the Maryland Innovation Initiative and for acknowledging its significant contribution to the advancement of technology-driven Maryland. Thank you.
Hello, delegates. My name is Stephen McDonald. I am an amputee. I am a patient of Dr. Luis Garza for his stem cell research. I would just like to take a couple of moments actually. I'm a military veteran. I served in combat in Southwest Asia. I separated from the military and I started working as a defense contractor, which has taken me around the world. I've extensively traveled to the Middle East, Africa, and most recently Afghanistan. I'm a power lifter. I enjoy powerlifting. I am trying to get a spot on the 2028 Paralympic powerlifting team. Part of the problem with powerlifting is you put a lot of weight on your residual limb inside the socket. This is not just a problem for me, it's a problem for a great many people. As I advocate for amputees throughout Maryland, many amputees will not wear their prosthesis because their skin breaks down, it's painful, they don't want to wear it. Their quality of life is sitting on the porch every day and walking to the mailbox to get the mail. I find that unacceptable. Thanks to Dr. Garza, I have been through the protocol for stem cell research where a biopsy was taken from my palm, my cells were grown, and it was injected into my residual limb. I am currently setting personal records in the squat and powerlifting at the moment. My limb is 100% solid and stable. My skin has not broken down in the past 6 months since I started this program. I cannot provide any more enthusiastic support for this than my own experience. I appreciate your time today, and I would definitely appreciate a favorable view of the Maryland stem cell. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Good afternoon, committee. My name is Sherrod Davis. I'm the CEO at EcoMap Technologies, but more importantly, I'm Pavel Leper's co-founder. I'm a product of Northeast Baltimore City. Pava started EcoMap out of our dorm room at Johns Hopkins University. Troy mentioned this in the last testimony, but I'll hit a couple of the highlights for you all today. TEDCO was one of our first customers. TEDCO is one of our biggest investors. At this point, we employ 30 folks, 25 of whom are in and around Baltimore and the state of Maryland. 50% of those people are women, and 50% of those people are folks of color. The reality is that we aren't here without the support of TEDCO. And so we couldn't do it without Troy and the rest of the crew. And so we are on a mission at this point to actualize Pava's vision. We're actually raising a Series A here soon. And so Troy needs this money. And so really would like to support this bill to have more companies like EcoMap, more leaders that look like Pava and that look like myself. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may, Pava's parents are here, if I may. Pava's parents are here. Frank and Carolyn are here. So I want to make sure to, and then we mentioned Corey Bailey, who's with Upsurge, is also here. So I want to call that out. Sorry about that, Madam Chair.
No problem at all. First of all, I just want to say thank you to all of you for all the work you're doing collectively. I want to also extend my condolences personally as a Baltimore City delegate. I actually represent Northeast Baltimore City, but also my husband works at the Homewood campus at Johns Hopkins, is very much aware of the great work that was done there by your dear daughter. So thank you for extending her legacy through these efforts. And thank you to your to her co-founder and the entire EcoMac family. We also want to extend our condolences to the entire EcoMap family as well. And I want to first begin with Dr. Akshantala. Thank you for the work you're doing, just improving the quality of life of people that are dealing with pancreatic disorders. But it's really gratifying to know that there are things that are being born right here in Maryland, and with the leadership that you're providing that are really just making life worth living for many that are dealing with very serious challenges. So I just want to say a thank you from the committee. And then also, sir, first, thank you for your service to our nation.
Yeah.
Also, you're really shaming me on the fitness level. I really need to get myself together is what a secondary message I received today. But I just want to say, just thank you for advocating for others who maybe would not know how to do so, and using your story to ensure that we're innovating in the best interest of our fellow Marylanders and others that are affected by similar conditions across the world. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Are there any questions or feedback from, yes, Vice Chair Harris? You're pointing to our colleague, Delegate Grice. I apologize.
Okay, I just want to kind of go back to these new programs that the governor's speaking across the hall there, and we have a tremendous opportunity in Kent County in Maryland.
Delegate Grice, would you mind moving just your microphone?
Sure.
There you go. Thank
Perfect,
you.
thank you. In Kent County, Maryland, in that, we're doing our best to help those guys because it's a rural county. They have a small taxable assessable base, and really the best way to grow that base is through economic development. And fortunately for that location, we have Middletown, Delaware. I don't know if anyone's been there, but it was 20 years ago, it was just a small sleepy town of just a few thousand people. Now they have 22,000 people in Middletown, Delaware. The reason why, it's a bedroom community for Newark and Wilmington, Delaware. And what we would love to happen is for them to be a bedroom community for Kent County, Maryland, to be quite honest. And that's the challenge that we have in most of these Eastern Shore counties, is a lot of these companies won't move to the rural areas because we just don't have the workforce. Well, we do have the workforce in Middletown, Delaware. And so I guess my question is, I know with the Baltimore Tech Hub, it also includes Cecil County. Can we also include Kent County in that? And it's not the entire county. It would just be that small piece where Route 301 goes into Delaware. Basically, we just want to overflow and welcome these folks into Maryland, at least the businesses into Maryland as best we possibly can, because the workforce is already there. And that's been our challenge already. And then my second question is going to be, and I'm looking at this report with a lot of these new programs and some of our higher ed institutions. Is there any way that, I guess my first question might be, there are none of these institutions from the Eastern Shore. So I guess, is it because they didn't want to be, or can we add them potentially? And one of them would be Washington College in Chestertown. Certainly they could help. If they don't want to do it, obviously we still have, Salisbury, we have UMES and 2 community colleges.
Yeah, good, Grace. Thanks for your support and thanks for the question. So the definition of the MSA, which includes is first of all, it's the Census Bureau definition of an MSA, but Cecil County was added as part of the EDA. So no, to answer the question is, we don't have the ability. This is an EDA designation. So let me. That's not trying to punt, but that's the EDA definition. But the point I do want to make, and Mark was across the hall, Mark Thomas, who leads the Greater Baltimore Committee, was across the hall testifying. One of the things that I'm excited about with this MSA effort is our chance to really make this a statewide effort. And that's the next thing we're going to be focused on. Is yes, we've got a proposal. We have to submit it here in a few weeks, and Mr. Bailey is very much involved with that effort. But we all talk about how we need to use this to create opportunities throughout the state of Maryland. So I guess my real answer to your question is stand by. No, and I mean that because we recognize the need to do this. We have a real opportunity to think differently about how I used the word stitching earlier. This really gives us a chance to stitch this state together, frankly, in a way that we've not done before. So that's what I'm excited about. And the same thing goes with the schools. The schools were from the MSA, so that's what's driving that.
Very good. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
I believe it was scale, stitch, and storytell
That leads to stickiness.
that leads to stickiness. I was getting there.
There you go. I'm sorry. My apologies.
The alliteration makes it memorable. Delegate Bullock.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I just want to begin first by echoing all the things that you spoke to, and thank you to the panel for all the incredible work that you're doing. I am, get very excited about entrepreneurship and innovation, and I just wanted to understand what are some of the metrics that you're using to assess success? I know one of the things that for new businesses is whether they survive, right, a couple of years, 5 years out. Do you have those metrics? Are you tracking those? And what other metrics are you using besides the dollars invested and the jobs directly in the company? But if you can speak to that.
No, thank you for that. You're hitting on a soapbox question for me, because I think the traditional metrics that you just mentioned, job creation and the capital, are somewhat legacy and somewhat may not be telling the whole story. If I look at the TEDCO portfolio, most of our companies are 4 to 5, 6 to 7 type. That's the size that he talked about. It's a huge company for the portfolios that we have. We're at that very early stage, and so I think. But to answer your question, yes, we do track follow-on investments. We just received, or I just talked to with the folks at University of Baltimore literally this morning, that our overall impact for the state of Maryland over our years is almost $3 billion. And so that includes job creation, that includes follow-on investments, that includes exits that have happened, that includes the research that has happened, being led by MII and stem cell efforts. And we actually know that numbers are understated because talking to the researchers, there's other inputs that we've not done a good job of tracking. and we got to do a better job. But we do track the traditional ones of jobs and exits and follow-on investments. But I think the other ones, to your question, which is a great one, that I want us to begin to try to track also is, are we maintaining the talent base in Maryland? Are we keeping that talent? And are we attracting talent to the state of Maryland that we but for would not attract? And most importantly, quite honestly, are we attracting capital? Because that's the real thing. At the end of the day, I think my friend Sherrod would tell you that's the heartbeat of this thing. We don't have enough, particularly early stage capital, even growth capital that's here in the state of Maryland. So that's got to be the thing that we're very much, and if you look at if you will, the flywheel of TEDCO, yes, we do get funding to provide some of our investments, but we have our Maryland Venture Fund, which basically you've already funded it. And the way we continue to make investments and pay for it is through the exits. And so we've got to continue to make great investments so that we have the capital going forward to continue to make great investments. And so that's the types of metrics, absolutely. So, but your question is one that we still are working through, because I think there's another set of metrics that we all should be tracking beyond just jobs and the capital pieces.
Thank you. And I just have a quick follow-up on that. So of the investments that have been made by TEDCO, how many companies are still in operation percentage-wise?
Yeah.
And how does that compare nationally to similar entities?
So another great question. So our current, Jack Miner is our Chief Investment Officer. He's in the back of the room there. So our current portfolio has 300 companies in it. And to give you a sense of that, we have 40 people at TEDCO. And Jack has six folks on his investment team. If we were a traditional private equity venture capital firm with that many portfolio companies, we'd have a couple of hundred people at TEDCO tracking those companies. We don't have anywhere near that, nor am I asking for that level of size. So we have 300 companies currently. And I think, look at the metrics that we had that I just heard this morning. Over the course of our time at TEDCO, about 400, to answer your question, about 400 companies are still in some level of activation across all the companies that we've activated. The answer on compared to is actually very difficult. And I thought it would be easy, but it's difficult because the versions of TEDCO across the country are very different. They're doing different things. They're either investing very specifically in a sector like healthcare, or they're investing at a specific stage, whereas we are technology agnostic, and we do everything from literally coming out of the labs all the way through Series A. So it's not as easy as compared as I thought, because we've been working this for the last year to try to get that exact answer. But I will tell you what the consultants did tell us. When you look at the impact that we have had, this almost $3 billion, they would tell you, even when you try to do the normalization, TEDCO is at the top of the game. And this is their exact words, top of the game in terms of impact that they brought to the state of Maryland.
Thank you. I appreciate your response.
Are there any additional questions for the panel? Seeing none, thank you so much for being here. That concludes the budget hearing for TEDCO, and also it concludes the EED hearing for today.